Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about a very important and sad time in history, the war between Iran and Iraq. This was a very long and difficult war that happened many years ago. It changed many lives and shaped the future of both countries. It's important to understand this conflict to learn about the past. I will tell you the story in simple English, like a lesson for listening. Part 1. Two countries. Different ideas and old problems. Our story begins with two countries next to each other, Iran and Iraq. They are in a part of the world called the Middle East. They share a long border, a line on the map that separates them. This border is very important. For many, many years, they lived side by side. But sometimes, even good neighbors have small problems that can grow big. Very big. The history between Iran and Iraq was long and often not easy. Even before the war, there were old disagreements about land, especially about the Shatt al-Arab waterway. This is like a very important river or channel where two big rivers meet and flow to the sea. It is vital for ships to travel, especially for carrying oil, which is very important for making money for both countries. Both Iran and Iraq believed this waterway belonged more to them. This was a constant point of tension, like a small, burning coal that could grow into a fire at any time. In Iran, there was a big change in the government in 1979. This was called the Iranian Revolution. Before 1979, Iran had a king called the Shah. The Shah had a different way of leading the country, often friendly with Western countries. But after the revolution, Iran became an Islamic republic. This meant that religious leaders had a lot of power in the government. The new leaders in Iran had strong religious ideas and wanted to spread these ideas to other countries, especially to their neighbors, including Iraq. They believed their new way of life was better and that other countries should follow it. They often spoke against other types of governments in the region, saying they were not truly Islamic. This made many leaders in nearby countries feel nervous. In Iraq, the leader was a very strong man named Saddam Hussein. He was the president. Saddam Hussein was a powerful military leader. He wanted Iraq to be the strongest country in the region, a leader for all Arab countries. He also had big worries about Iran's new ideas after their revolution. He worried that Iran's strong religious messages might cause problems inside Iraq. Why? Because Iraq also had many people who shared similar religious beliefs with Iran's new leaders. Saddam Hussein did not want these new ideas to become strong in his country or challenge his power. He wanted to keep his power very strong and make Iraq even stronger, without any outside influence. So, before the war even began, there were already many tensions, bad feelings, or disagreements between Iran and Iraq. Iran had new, strong religious leaders with new ideas, and Iraq had a strong military leader who wanted more power and feared these new ideas. These differences, like two big, dark clouds coming together, were ready to cause a huge storm. This storm would soon turn into a long and terrible war, changing everything for both nations and their people, leading to immense suffering and loss. The air was thick with mistrust. and old resentments. Part 2. The war begins. September 1980. The sudden attack. The war between Iran and Iraq started very suddenly in September 1980. It was a surprise attack. Iraq attacked Iran. Saddam Hussein made the big decision to send his army, with many soldiers and tanks, across the border and into Iran. He thought it would be a quick war, maybe just a few weeks or months. He believed he could win fast and easily. Saddam Hussein thought Iran was weak because of their recent revolution and the big changes in their government. During the revolution, many experienced military leaders in Iran had left or lost their jobs. The army was changing, and Saddam thought this made Iran's army not strong enough to fight well. He thought Iran would not be able to defend itself for long. Saddam Hussein had a few strong reasons for attacking, and these were very important to him. 1. The Shatt al-Arab waterway. He wanted to control this very important waterway, which was like a busy highway for ships. Both countries needed it for trade and to send their oil to other parts of the world. Saddam wanted it only for Iraq. He believed that this whole waterway should be fully under Iraq's control, not shared with Iran. 2. Regional power. Saddam wanted Iraq to be the strongest and most respected country in the Middle East. He dreamed of being a big leader in the Arab world. If he won a war against Iran, Iraq would be seen as the most powerful country, and his own power would grow hugely. He wanted to show everyone that Iraq was the new big power in the area. 3. Fear of the Iranian Revolution. This was a very deep fear. Saddam was afraid of Iran's new religious ideas and its new government. He did not want these ideas, which encouraged people to challenge old leaders, to spread to Iraq or other neighboring countries. He thought if he attacked Iran now, he could stop Iran from becoming too strong or from spreading their revolution and its messages to his own people, especially the Shia Muslims in Iraq who might feel connected to Iran's new religious leaders. He saw the revolution as a direct threat to his own rule and to the stability of the region. So, on September 22, 1980, Iraqi soldiers with many tanks and planes crossed the border into Iran. They attacked many cities and towns in the western part of Iran. They moved quickly at first, pushing deep into Iran's land. Saddam Hussein thought Iran would quickly give up, that their new government would be too weak to resist. He was wrong, very wrong. The Iranian people, with their new government and strong religious beliefs, were very determined and ready to defend their country. They did not give up easily. This quick and strong attack by Iraq was the start of a very long and bloody war, much longer, harder, and more terrible than anyone expected. It was not a small fire. It was a huge, uncontrolled fire that quickly got out of control, pulling millions of people into its destructive flames and lasting for almost a decade. Part 3. A long and bloody fight, a war of attrition. The war was not quick, as Saddam thought. It became a very long and very bloody fight. It lasted for almost 8 years, from September 1980 to August 1988. This was a terrible shock to everyone. Both sides used many, many soldiers. Millions of young men were sent to fight. They used tanks, planes, artilleries, big guns, and other military equipment. It was a conventional war, meaning they used normal armies and military equipment, not just small groups of fighters. The fighting was often very old-fashioned, like wars from the past century. Soldiers fought in trenches, which are long, deep ditches dug in the ground to hide from enemy fire. They stayed in these trenches for months, often in terrible conditions, waiting for the enemy to attack or attacking themselves. The fighting was very hard, very dangerous, and very tiring. Many soldiers, young men with lives ahead of them, died in this war. They died from guns, from bombs, and from gas. The battlefield was a place of extreme danger and endless pain. The war also affected cities and people who were not soldiers. This was one of the most terrible parts. Both sides attacked each other's cities with long-range missiles and bombs from planes. This was called the War of the Cities. Cities like Tehran in Iran and Basra in Iraq were hit many times. Many homes, schools, and hospitals were destroyed. Many regular people, including women, children, and old people, were killed or seriously hurt. People had to run to shelters, safe places underground, when the alarms sounded, telling them bombs were coming. Life in these cities was full of fear, constant danger, and uncertainty. It was hard to live a normal life. One of the most horrifying and illegal parts of the war was the use of chemical weapons. Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, used dangerous chemical gas against Iran's soldiers. These gases caused terrible pain, difficulty breathing, and often slow, painful death. Worse, Iraq also used these chemical weapons against some of its own people, especially the Kurds in northern Iraq, a group who Saddam saw as enemies. This was a terrible crime against humanity. The smell of these gases, the sight of people suffering from them, left deep, lasting trauma. The war also caused a huge amount of economic damage. Both countries spent huge amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars, on buying weapons and fighting. Their oil fields, which are the most important places for their money, were attacked and often burned. Oil pipelines, tubes that carry oil, were also hit. So, the war made both countries much, much poorer. It was like burning money every single day for 8 years. Roads, bridges, factories, hospitals, and schools were destroyed. This made life very hard for people in both Iran and Iraq for many years after the war. The world watched this long and terrible war, seeing the huge suffering it caused to millions of innocent people, and the complete destruction of valuable resources. Part 4. Who helped whom? Outside powers and their interests. The Iran-Iraq War was not just a fight between two countries. Many other countries around the world had a strong interest in the war. They did not stay neutral. Some helped Iran, and some helped Iraq. This made the war even more complicated and longer. Many Western countries, especially the United States, and some countries in Europe, did not want Iran's new religious government to become too strong. They worried about Iran's influence and power spreading in the Middle East. They saw Iran's revolution as a threat to their own interests and their friends in the region. So, they often helped Iraq. They gave Iraq large amounts of money as loans, money that must be paid back. They also secretly or openly sold many powerful weapons to Iraq. Sometimes, they even gave Iraq important information, like satellite pictures of Iranian army movements. They saw Saddam Hussein as a strong leader who could stop Iran's new power. Other Arab countries in the Middle East, especially those that produced a lot of oil and had kings or different types of governments, also worried deeply about Iran's new religious ideas. They had different political and religious systems and did not want Iran's revolution to spread to their countries and cause problems among their own people. So, many of these Arab countries, like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, gave huge amounts of money to Iraq to help them fight the war. They saw Iraq as a strong buffer, or a wall, protecting them from Iran's influence. They feared Iran more than Iraq. Iran, on the other hand, had fewer open helpers. Because of its revolution, many countries were not friendly with Iran. Iran had to rely largely on its own people and its own resources. They often got weapons and supplies from different places, but it was often more secret, or from countries that were not major powers. Sometimes they bought older weapons, or they tried to make their own. This made their fight harder. The United Nations, UN, a big international organization that works for peace, tried many times to stop the war. They asked both countries to make peace and to stop the fighting. They sent people to talk to leaders from both sides, to mediate, and find common ground. They passed many resolutions, formal decisions asking for peace. But for many years, both Iran and Iraq did not want to stop fighting. They both believed they could win the war completely. They refused to listen to the UN's calls for peace. The war continued to burn, fueled by money and weapons from many different parts of the world, and by the stubborn will of both leaders. This outside help, though often given for different reasons, made the war longer, more destructive, and caused even more terrible suffering. It showed how global politics and the interests of powerful countries can get deeply involved in local conflicts, making them bigger and much harder to end. Part 5. The End of the War and Its High Cost. After almost 8 long years, the Iran-Iraq War finally ended in August 1988. It did not end because one side won a big, clear victory on the battlefield. It ended because both countries were completely tired and exhausted. They had lost too many people, spent too much money, and suffered too much destruction. They simply could not fight anymore. They had run out of resources and out of human strength. The war ended with a ceasefire. A ceasefire means both sides agree to stop fighting, to lay down their weapons. The United Nations played a very big and important role in helping this ceasefire happen. They worked very hard for years to bring the two sides to an agreement, to sit at a table and talk about stopping the war. They made many plans and helped arrange the final agreement. The cost of the war was unimaginably high, leaving deep scars on both nations for generations. 1. Human lives. This was the most terrible cost. Millions of people died or were seriously hurt. It is hard to know the exact number, but it was probably between 1 million and 2 million people, both soldiers and civilians. Most of them were young soldiers, the future of their countries. Families lost sons, fathers, brothers, sisters, and mothers. Many more people were injured, losing arms or legs, or suffering from chemical weapons. Their lives were changed forever. The number of dead was so large that almost every family in both countries knew someone who died in the war. 2. Money. Economic ruin. Both countries spent huge, unthinkable amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars, on the war. This money could have been used to build thousands of schools, hundreds of hospitals, millions of homes, and to make life better for their people. Instead, It was spent on buying weapons, paying soldiers, and destroying things. Both countries' economies were badly damaged, almost ruined. Their oil production, which was their main source of income, was greatly reduced because oil fields and ports were attacked. It took many, many years, even decades, to try to rebuild their economies and their broken infrastructure, roads, bridges, factories. 3. Cities and land. Physical destruction. Many cities, towns, and villages near the border were completely destroyed. Buildings were reduced to dust, homes were gone, fields were ruined and made unusable for farming. Factories were broken and could not produce goods. The land itself was filled with bombs, mines, and unexploded shells, making it dangerous for people to return and live there for a very long time after the war. People could not go back to their homes. 4. No clear winner. In the end, after 8 years of fighting and so much death and destruction, neither side really won. The borders between the two countries were almost the same as they were before the war. They fought for 8 years, lost millions of lives, spent unimaginable amounts of money, and caused widespread ruin, but nothing really changed on the map, or in terms of who controlled the Shatt al-Arab. This lack of a clear victory made the war even sadder, and more meaningless for the people who suffered so much. It felt like a terrible waste of everything. The war left deep and painful scars on both Iran and Iraq. The memories of the continuous fighting, the immense loss of loved ones, the destruction of homes and communities, and the physical and mental trauma stayed with the people for many years. It taught a very hard lesson about the terrible cost of war, especially when it is long, brutal, and ends without a clear purpose or true peace. Even today, the effects of this devastating war can still be felt in the region, in the hearts of the people, and in the history books that document its tragic events. Part 6. What we can learn from this war. Lessons for peace. The Iran-Iraq War is a very sad and important part of history. It is a powerful story that teaches us many lessons. What can we learn from it, so that we can try to avoid such terrible events in the future? War is terrible and costly. The most important lesson is that war causes immense suffering, death, and destruction. It brings only pain and ruin. It shows how violent and painful conflicts between countries can be, especially for the ordinary people. It reminds us very strongly that peace is always better than war, and that we must work hard to achieve it. Long wars exhaust everyone. When a war lasts for many years, like this one did for 8 years, it takes everything from a country, its young people, its money, its natural resources, and its hope. Both sides become completely weak and tired. In such long wars, there are often no real winners, only countries and people who lose greatly. The idea of a quick victory often proves to be a dangerous illusion. Outside help can make wars longer and worse. When other countries get involved in a conflict and give money, weapons, or other types of support to one or both sides, it can often make the fighting last much longer. This can make the conflict bigger and more destructive, leading to more deaths and more damage. It shows the complex dangers of international politics and intervention. Differences in ideas and power can lead to conflict. Disagreements about political beliefs, religious ideas, control of land, like the Shatt al-Arab, and desires for more power can lead to very dangerous situations. It shows the huge importance of leaders talking to each other, listening, and finding peaceful solutions through diplomacy and negotiation, even when differences are very strong. Without open communication, small disagreements can turn into huge wars. The importance of peace efforts. International organizations like the United Nations, UN, play a very important role in trying to stop wars. They work very hard to mediate, to bring warring sides to the table, and to ask them to stop fighting. Their work, even if it takes a very long time and faces many challenges, is very important to try and bring peace and reduce suffering. They are a voice for peace in a world that can be full of conflict. The long-lasting scars of war. Even after the fighting stops, the effects of a long war continue for many, many years. The memories of the fighting, the deep grief from the loss of loved ones, the physical and emotional wounds, and the destruction of homes and communities stay with the people for generations. It is a constant reminder of the war's terrible legacy. The Iran-Iraq War is a strong and sad reminder of the importance of diplomacy, understanding, and respect between nations. It tells a story of immense human bravery and resilience in the face of suffering, but also of great tragedy and loss. We must remember such terrible events from history so that we can learn from them and try to avoid making similar mistakes in the future. The echoes of this war still teach us about the complex nature of power, unresolved conflicts, and the enduring hope for lasting peace in the world. It is a lesson written in blood and tears, one that humanity must never forget.